Hello everyone, and welcome back to our universe. Today we'll be talking about 10 NASA achievements of all time. NASA seems to have achieved a lot of things in its short time. It has actually explored, discovered, and actually did things that were impossible at the time. This is the United States of America's space agency called NASA. And here is a list of the top 10 breakthrough NASA achievements of all time. Number 10. Pioneer 10. This was a spacecraft that actually went to the planet Jupiter, and it was a breakthrough achievement for NASA. The Pioneer 10 mission was the first man-made object to enter the realms of another planet, and this was a journey to the king of the planets, the planet Jupiter. Launched in 1972, this was a true pioneer of space technology. This was the first spacecraft to actually go through interstellar space, and through the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter. Number 9. Explorer 1. So in the space race, NASA's JPL designed the first US satellite, called Explorer 1 in 1958. It circled the planet 12.5 times a day. The purpose of the satellite was mostly to study the cosmic rays present in the Earth's orbit. And what made this such a breakthrough was entirely responsible for the theory of interference with the satellite's cosmic ray detector. Number 8. The CHANDRA X-ray Observatory. In 1999, a super-sensitive X-ray telescope enabled us to see things that we had never seen before. It was even possible to witness a split second in which small space particles actually disappear into a black hole. The telescope actually relies on high energy particles, rather than just the normal visible light that we can see with our eyes. The CHANDRA telescope actually orbits the Earth much higher in altitude than the Hubble Space Telescope. This gives it a very clear image of things like supernovas, quasars, and exploding stars. CHANDRA has given us a great viewpoint of things that we couldn't even see with our very own eyes. Number 7. The Hubble Space Telescope. This was a telescope that was launched into orbit in 1990, and has been given us data and pictures ever since. That's over 25 years of service. The Hubble Space Telescope was an actual new generation of telescope, sitting in orbit in outer space. Named after the astronomer Edwin Hubble, the Hubble Space Telescope proved his theory of the expanding nature of the universe. Having taken 15 years for its development, the work of the telescope actually started in 1975, and it provided a clear resolution of the view of the ever-expanding universe, with over 50 times the sensitivity of any telescope on the ground. Number 6. Apollo 13. An achievement is not always about inventions or discovery. Apollo 13 was scheduled to land on the moon in 1970, with 3 astronauts on board. But they faced a massive challenge when their oxygen tank actually blew up and the second actually led to malfunction. They had hardly any resources and had to sustain their life outside of the Earth. The astronauts had little food and little water to live on, and they lived in near freezing temperatures for 6 days. The Apollo 13 astronauts actually used the moon to gravitationally pull them back to Earth, so they basically made a figure of 8 around the Earth and the moon. Even though this mission was a failure, it was still successful in the return of the 3 astronauts. Number 5. The Mars Pathfinder. The Mars Pathfinder in 1996 to 1997 was more of an experiment to send an unmanned mission to experience the conditions of the Red Planet. It was to test the viability of an unmanned mission in order to explore this mysterious planet. It consisted of a lander module alongside a rover module, with an objective of making it through Mars's atmosphere. It landed safely and was set free. The Mars Pathfinder was a major breakthrough, and it gave NASA over 2.3 billion bits of data, and also over 17,000 photographs of the planet. Number 4. Freedom 7. Alan Shepard became the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth in 1961. He left the Earth and was NASA's entry into exploring the field of human spaceflight. Shepard actually reached Earth's orbit at an altitude of 116.5 miles. And he spent 15 minutes and 28 seconds in orbit, at a speed of approximately 5,134 miles per hour. He later crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and this gave the world inspiration to move into space technology after NASA's first manned mission. Number 3. The Space Shuttle. The Apollo rockets by NASA were used for just a single use, and also with the tragedy that happened with Apollo 13. NASA therefore came up with a basic design to use 2 solid rocket boosters attached to an orbiter module, and also an external fuel tank, to actually reuse this shuttle to go up into space many times, and this would be used for a number of missions carried out by the same spacecraft. Starting work in 1972, the Space Shuttle finally happened after 9 years of hard work. And it was only in 1981 that the project took its first flight with the Space Shuttle Columbia. Number 2. The International Space Station. Long manned missions to space were sure to be a reality, but to explore further into the solar system, they needed something different. They needed an International Space Station. This was an idea that was created by NASA, where all the space agencies could come together in space to use it as an international space laboratory. It wasn't the first space station, but it was the most equipped. The International Space Station offers the best accommodation and top-of-the-line orbiting laboratory. This was to be a permanent home in space, and also it would be a great assistance to the orbiting satellites and missions to go into the solar system. It was our first step into living outside of the Earth. And number 1, Apollo 11. President Kennedy announced this within 20 days of the first man going into orbit around the Earth. He announced that America were going to the moon, and it was going to be NASA's biggest achievement to date. It was then that NASA actually initiated the Apollo program. Apollo 1 was launched in 1967, but ended in disaster when all 3 astronauts died in a fire on the launch pad. This was followed by 9 missions to actually test the viability, and finally Apollo 11 was a success. Neil Armstrong landed on the surface of the moon on July 20th, 1969, making him the first man to actually step foot on the moon, with that famous sentence of "one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Many believe that it was actually a staged event with nothing happening for real, but I've got a video about that, about 10 reasons why we did land on the moon, so you can click that if you like. So I hope that's given you a great insight into NASA, its achievements, discoveries and its exploration. And also, what was your favourite achievement of NASA? Put it in the comments below and let me know. And as always, if you've enjoyed the video, click the like button, and if you want to support the channel, click subscribe. Thank you for watching.